Hi, guys. This is Cliff from cliffslist. And today I've got a unique visiting guest, Tanishka, who is going to be sharing some insights into how men can improve their relationships and with women. Tanishka, maybe you can give people a little bit of an introduction to yourself, and let's start talking about how men can benefit from knowing you.
Oh, bless you. Thanks, Clifford, and thanks for having me on. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Look, I have worked with men since 2008, with women's back, oh gosh, well, 28 years with women. But I facilitate groups. I also write books. And essentially, I'm a tantrika. So I teach Tantra, and that's the subject of a lot of my books and online programs.
I think that that's a very interesting pursuit. I think that a lot of guys just learning that and learning how women respond to that would have an effect on their approach to viewing women. Would you see that? Have you seen that sort of a change their behaviors in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's not rocket science. It's about connection. If we think about, what creates life, it's the coming together of opposites. It's explosive, it's exciting. So that's what we crave. We crave connection. It's sort of hardwired into us. So, yeah, I think the big piece that Tantra offers is we're kind of groomed to put forward our best side and to hide the things that we think are unacceptable about us. And what that does is it creates nervous tension because we're so scared of those things coming out and being seen. Whereas Tantra kind of spins it on its head. And it's about actually acknowledging that I'm both light and shadow. We're all fucked up and we're all divine, but it's about being whole, understanding that we all go equally into both directions. And if we acknowledge that, if we take responsibility for that, we are centered, and we're centered in a sense of self which is magnetic. It's, confidence is what attracts people. So if we're just putting forward a veneer of how we want to be seen, you scratch the surface and it's brittle. Whereas if someone's done the work of, finding the different parts of themselves and accepting the different parts of themselves, that is very attractive.
Can you go into a little bit more detail about that? About
Yeah.
how that can, I guess, affect a man's self-image and his self-love and this type of things?
Yeah. So, okay, let me explain it this way. A young man is like half a soul. Okay, so he knows he's masculine. Okay, because he defines himself by what he can see, taste, touch, feel. Yeah, through the five earthly senses. So he's rational and material. So he goes, well, I'm male, and he identifies being male as the opposite of being female. So he'll repress his feminine traits, his vulnerability, for instance. He might want to appear to be super tough, drive a Hummer, have big muscles, a big bank account, sort of hyper masculine, because he's afraid of looking feminine, associating that with being less of a man. But here's the crux: a man who has actually integrated his feminine traits. So a man who can cook, a man who likes to do meditation and yoga, a man who's not afraid of his feelings, he is whole. He's a king. He's mature. He's integrated. And a woman feels like, this is a man who can hold me. This is a man who can claim me in bed because he knows who he is. Whereas a young buck, he's all bravado. Yeah, he's demonstrating rather than being. Yeah, and it's like a flag. It's like wearing a billboard that says, I don't know who I am, and I need constant validation that I'm enough. Yeah, and so when a woman sees that in a man, it kind of flags, if he needs validation, he's going to be flirting with with women, in order to constantly get that, oh yeah, I'm attractive, I'm, and if someone needs that constant validation, it's kind of like a time bomb. Yeah, they're going to be flirting and potentially cheating on you because it's a compulsive need to have that validation that they're attractive to women. It's like an addiction, and it comes from low self-worth. Yeah.
So can you go into a little more detail again about how, I guess, what you do changes a guy who maybe isn't that way into being more that
Yeah.
way?
Okay, good question. So if we think about our personality, our persona is like the outward traits, how we want to be seen. But the soul, or the inner self, it is multifaceted like a diamond, which is fascinating. Yeah, it's interesting. And so I have an online program. It's called Rainbow Warrior. It's got nothing to do with the LGBTQ community, because the soul is like a rainbow. It's many colors, many facets. So it introduces men to the 7 different faces of the masculine half of our soul, because the soul is feminine and masculine. If we're going to be whole, we need to explore all facets of who we are inside. And the more a man does that, the more interesting he is. So if you want to hold a woman's attention, yeah, not just on a first date, but for many, many dates, you've got to be interesting. And so when a man has explored the different facets, it's like, wow, he's always surprising me. He's full of, um, what would you say? Unexpected facets that keep me hooked in. I want to know more about who this is. I can't just figure him out and write him off. So I've got an online program, and it takes men through meeting the 7 different aspects that map the male psyche. So it starts with Pan, the wild man, right? He is, if a man is not empowered in his primal self, he often has insecurities about his body, or he might wrestle with shame, particularly if he grew up Catholic, Whereas when Pan is, healthy in a man's psyche, he's happy to be naked. He loves his bodily functions. He's happy in his body. And that's what we need in order to be a healthy sexual partner, And then there's the next one, which is, Aries, who's the warrior. And this is a man who is not afraid to take risks. Women love it when men aren't afraid to take action, because the masculine polarity is active. The feminine polarity is receptive. Okay, so if we think about the symbol for the masculine, it's a circle with an arrow. Okay, that arrow, it's like a penis. It's outward. And so it's really lovely when a man has enough self-confidence, enough belief in himself, that even if she says no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't define him. And if he is secure in who he is, he can approach a woman. He can, not with rehearsed lines, he can speak from his heart. He can be authentic. And that's what melts a woman's armor. That's what, makes her available to him. Because women have a sixth sense. In fact, we've got many sixth senses: clairaudience, clairvoyance, I could name them all. But we know when a man is trotting out lines. It's patronizing to think that we don't. So we want men to show up honestly and transparently. And that's what touches our heart. And the more a man can touch our heart by daring to be honest and vulnerable, it opens inner doors in us where we go, okay, I'm going to let him in a bit more, and I'm going to let him in a bit more. But he's got to risk looking like a fool for love. Okay? Yeah. I've got so much to say. I was so excited for this interview because, it's dear to me. We need to have men and women connecting in a healthy way. Yeah. And I like that you're opening the conversation up to a woman, So,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure. It takes two to tango, as they say.
right.
So no. So tell me more about. I guess if you have a client that comes to you and he's got difficulty relating to women in one way or another, like
Yeah.
walk me through what you might do with him.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to often it comes back to our relationship with our parents, and if a man grew up with a mother that was very dominating, he may be a pleaser. Okay, so his way of getting love is to always do what he thinks she wants rather than being authentic. And what happens in that situation is he ends up betraying his own heart. Yeah, he's not being honest, and that results in then resentment, or passive aggression. And he's got to risk individuating from his mum. Yeah, of going, what? Doesn't matter what a woman thinks of me. It's who I am when I look in the mirror. So it's all about building authentic self-worth. Or, for instance, you might have a man who, regardless of whether he's 50 or 60, he might still be a teenager inside. In other words, how do we know if a man is a teenager? Well, he is often feeling like women are out of his league, the women that he falls for. Kind of like Lancelot putting Guinevere up on a pedestal, right? So he's always falling for women that are emotionally unavailable to him. And he might love them from afar, the unrequited love scenario. Or he might be more like a Prince Charming, somebody who promises the world but can't deliver. And why do men try to charm women? Because they don't think they're enough. They think that they've got to impress women by saying what they've achieved or how much they earn or by looking buff. But at the end of the day, I noted on your website that you're wanting to help men attract high quality women. And I like that because, at the end of the day, we want to be around someone who makes us feel good, right? Otherwise, what are we doing? We're
Sure.
complicit in self-abuse, right? And often those who are fixating on the external appearance, not just of themselves, but in what they're hunting for, right? They're often going to attract people that aren't in their integrity. What do I mean by that? People that are immature. So every time we focus on the outside, what we look like, we're actually avoiding ourselves. We're avoiding spending time doing a deep dive and getting to know what our likes and dislikes are, or listening to our soul. Art is the language of the soul. So I would encourage every man who's listening to this to just try penning a poem or writing a song or doing a drawing. That saying, come up and see my etchings. You want to have something to share with a woman in the courtship, in the dating process, something of yourself, because through art, we express who we are inside. So that's a way of sharing, this is who I really am, beyond what you can see. And that will woo a woman. Okay. We want to be with a man who makes us feel special. And that means giving of himself. Any man can swipe a credit card, but will he show us who he really is? For instance, if you're thinking about where am I going to take a woman on a date, don't take her to a movie. Because what are you going to do in a movie? You're going to sit side by side and you're both passively going to look at a screen. There's no connection. Whereas if you put a little bit of creative thought into, how could I make this memorable? How could I make this different? How could I make this fun? She will be so taken aback that you're not just doing what everybody else does. For instance, you might hire a violinist, and do a picnic in the park. It doesn't have to cost money. It's about using your creativity, So yeah, it's encouraging men to think outside the box and think of inspiration. If you want to know what women love, watch a rom-com. It's like, we want to be wooed. Even women who identify as feminists, they want to be wooed. We want chivalry, We want to know that this man values us through his actions. Because anyone can talk a big game. But what women are watching for, women of worth, is, do his words and actions align? Because that's integrity. And at the end of the day, for a woman to have a full body, multi-orgasmic time with a man in bed, she needs to feel safe enough to open every inner door. And the way that safety is created is through all those little gestures that he does that says, I value you. Yeah. Women, we are sensitive creatures. We're always monitoring. We're always watching. Even if he thinks we're not, we're watching. And it's those little gestures. It's like putting a pot on simmer. You want to warm someone up gently, not expect a woman to go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, in the bedroom, tearing each other's clothes off. No, it's about establishing more and more connection. In fact, in one of my books, I've got it here, Creating Sacred Union and Partnerships. I've actually got a template called The 7 Dates at the 7 Gates. And it's about creating connection and trust at the 7 different energy centers. And that's what comprises our soul. So, ideally, you might show some physical affection through that process, but don't be in a hurry to just road test a woman like she's a car. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you got any examples of clients that you had that had maybe some issues that were a little bit challenging in some creative ways? Maybe you solved some of those things when it came to women in relationships?
Wow, good question. Yeah, look, the couples that I've worked with, like I used to do couples sessions, were not new couples. It was more about couples that were talking about divorce, and then by the end of a 2-hour session, they'd go home and make love before they got the kids from school. So, I know the power of connecting people and creating a safe space for that. But in terms of dating, I haven't specifically worked with men on dating. What I have done is I've facilitated a lot of men's circles. So I've held the space for men to speak openly and honestly about their own fears and insecurities. And They're just the same as working with women. Yeah, this idea that men are tough and, it's bullshit. We're all sentient, vulnerable beings. We all just want to be loved, you know. So I think the more a man can honor that in himself, a woman knows that he's trustworthy. He's not going to shame her emotions. And I'm not saying a guy that's so wet that he can't make a decision. Yeah, I don't want men to confuse being receptive with being passive, because receptivity is a strength of the feminine. It's when we're able to listen because we're genuinely interested in what the other person's saying. We're not just trying to think of what we want to say next. Or holding space for somebody. If someone's having a big emotional release, not needing to fix it, just being there, really being there, being so attentive, but energetically being present, surrounding them with with your energy so that they feel held energetically. Yeah, if you can do that for a woman, she is going to be able to surrender more deeply in lovemaking with you. Okay, so yeah, being passive is just when you're afraid to make a decision for fear of being judged, fear of rejection, fear of getting it wrong. But if a man can't make a decision, if he can't, if he lacks the courage and the confidence to be able to say, why don't we go to this restaurant? I looked up some reviews and it looks good. Great, make a booking. That instills confidence in a woman. And for the men that are afraid of rejection, I'd say go and take salsa classes. Because if you can lead a woman physically in a dance, you've got more chance of being able to lead the mating dance, to be able to say, hey, I saw you over there and I don't know, there's something about you. I would really be honored if you would consider allowing me to sit down and have a conversation with you. Is this a good time? Are you open to that? Yeah. If you are genuine in your approach, if you're sincere and you speak from the heart, I know I would say yes to that.
Maybe you can tell us about the challenges women come to you to see you about mostly.
Oh, wow. Okay. So for women, it's healing their heart, you know. And again, it's actually the same process. It's getting to know the 7 different facets of the feminine so that they can fall in love with themselves and have, self-worth in all their choices, make good, honoring choices of themselves because they know all the different facets of themselves. They know what their needs are. We're not that different, When a woman hasn't done that journey within to know herself, she's brittle. She's like a little girl. She's insecure. She's needy. She's emotionally unbalanced. She creates drama all the time. She's a nightmare. She's manipulative, right? So getting back to the guys, if you're shopping for a woman who's just, the set of curves that you're looking for, you're likely to end up with somebody who is a pain in the ass to be with, and someone who just wants you for what she can get from you rather than who you are. And the same is true for women. So what I do is I take people through rites of passage to help grow up their psyche, because all of us are emotionally and mentally immature because in our culture we didn't get those rites of passage to support us through our 4 different life stages. So it's not our fault, but it does mean it's up to us to make up for what we didn't get by going and seeking it out. That's what the Grail was, the wisdom of the feminine, which helps us to mature the psyche. And the word psyche means soul. So if we're wanting a soulmate relationship, if we want soul connection, if we want soulful lovemaking, we need to go find our soul. We need to go and connect with it, you know? Yeah, so I mapped that. I've got this book, which is like an initiation for men. It's like, you know, what you should have got when you turned 21, the key to the mysteries, which got turned into the key to the city. Yeah. So men can find their own heart and be governed by their own heart. Because here's the thing, a king is a man who's sovereign, a man who listens to his heart and leads himself from his conscience. And a man who does that will never, ever give his power away, whether that's seeking approval from women or seeking approval from his boss or his father. That's what keeps a man in disempowerment. A man who knows his own heart, that's catnip to a woman.
Let me ask you another question. From your, I guess, mainly life experience, do you have any,
Yeah.
you use the word wisdom. I like to try and ask about any insights or wisdom or tips or advice, something that guys probably wouldn't have heard before, something that's maybe you think is a little bit unique that you know about that could help them in their either their relationships or in meeting women or something that helps them again have success with women.
Okay. All right. This might be a bit controversial, but what the heck? That's what comes up intuitively to speak about. And it's kind of like the elephant in the room. There's a lot of guys that are addicted to porn. Okay. And feel shame about it because it takes them into dark places. Yeah. It's like it takes them into deeper and deeper taboos. Yeah. In order to get a hit. But what porn does is it gives men a false sense of power, of virility, through fantasies of domination and humiliation often. And a woman knows if a man watches porn from how he makes love. Yeah, he might emulate that. Not because he wants to, but because he's programming himself by watching it repetitively. And porn makes men a bad lover. Yeah, and again, it's not guys' fault. They're not initiated into what makes a good lover, into the love arts, which is what we used to do pre-patriarchy, right? We teach men how to be a great lover. So I would say explore a woman's body like you would explore different landscapes of the earth. Yeah, with a deep sense of reverence and curiosity. Yeah, spend a long time just on one part of the body and watching how it responds to different types of touch. And when you do bring your touch to a woman's body, bring all of your attention and focus to the touch, because the body responds. There's an intelligence in the body in every single cell. It's like having little eyes all over the skin. And the body recognizes the intention behind the touch. So if you bring to your touch deep reverence, the body will open and respond. Whereas if you bring a sense of, oh yeah, I want, I'm trying to get my needs met, it brings anxiety. Yeah. So we are sentient beings. There's so much more to us than just a brain in a meat suit. And one of the things that I teach is, multi-dimensional manhood and multi-orgasmic lovemaking. Because, people love taking LSD or doing mushrooms or ayahuasca because it opens up the fact that we are more than what you can see, touch, taste, feel, and smell. We are multidimensional. We're soul. And through meeting those different aspects of the masculine and the feminine that map the soul, what we do is we awaken the meridians of energy, known as the serpents of light in Tantra. And when we awaken these energies, we are able to connect on all levels, so that in lovemaking, one moment you might be primal, fucking, and then the next minute you're connecting through visualizing together, going into a deep meditative yin orgasm together. And then the next, you're swimming in long, fluid, sensual, wet strokes, because the inner lovers are connecting. Or you might connect in the heart, and it's just deep holding. So it's the more these different facets are explored, it's like the more colorful your lovemaking. Whereas if you just emulate what you see in Hollywood movies or in porn, it's like it's just physical. And you might as well go to an aerobics class. It's just a physical release. It's not actually transformative. It's not expansive. It's not life-changing. Yeah. Great lovemaking is born of somebody who has journeyed within to meet all the different aspects of the self. And if we think about the feminine is in the unseen realms. That's why women are the best guides or the best midwives to initiate men to meet the different parts of themselves. And when men do that, they're not afraid of commitment. A man who hasn't gone within to know himself, he is afraid of making a commitment because he's afraid of losing himself in what she wants. Whereas if he knows who he is, he can show up and go, I choose you. I know I'm not going to lose myself. I know who I am. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you
Interesting.
for being so receptive and just listening. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you've, I guess, given us a good insight into the basics of what you think and how you approach things. And maybe you can take a few minutes now and just tell people watching this about how they can find out more about you and what you offer,
Sure.
whether it's coaching or products and this type of thing.
Yeah, sure. So I've got this book, The Grail. It looks fat, but guys, it's like Run Dick Run, the size of the font. It's an easy read. It's also an audio book, because I know a lot of guys suffer from dyslexia, and I wrote that for the Brotherhood. Okay, so it takes men through a hero's journey to awaken the sovereign, the king, and it's basically an initiation. So it's been loved by men of all ages around the world. It's got 5 stars on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle for the guys that are digital nomads and not wanting to cart a big book around. And then the other resource that I would say is the Rainbow Warrior program, which is, it takes men through, there's experiential processes to do, there's video tutorials, but meeting those 7 aspects so that you empower every facet of your manhood. Because true inner power, you can't fake that, and that's what's most attractive to women, a man who knows who he is. Because we don't want to dominate men, and yeah. Other than that, I've got a free video series called Awakening the Sacred Masculine. And to find that, guys can go to The Grail, which is the-grail.com. And I've also got a podcast called Love School, and I share ancient stories such as the tale of Scheherazade, who meets a man who is a king, and every morning he beheads a woman, and she civilizes him. She teaches him how to be a better man through telling him the 1001 Arabian Nights. And I also share the story of Bluebeard, which is like a man who has an unintegrated psyche, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the man who, tries to put forward his best self, but feels his true self is unacceptable. So, yeah, there's some of the resources that I have. And yeah, I would encourage the men who've listened to this today to just sit and reflect on what I've said, and it might bring up memories for them, or to journal, because the more time a man can spend reflecting on his choices, rather than just, oh, yeah, she was no good, or she hurt me. And the more we can turn that mirror around and look at, okay, well, how did the choices that I make result in that situation, the more he will grow his own wisdom. And just like Solomon won the love of Sheba, a great queen, a man who is wise, a man who has developed the feminine within through taking time to reflect, he will win a high value woman, a queen, a woman who knows who she is and is wonderful company. Yeah, who has the capacity to love him deeply, and not just for his money, not just for what he can give her. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a main website for you that you can mention?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking. So it's themoonwoman.com. I didn't give myself that name, but I had a blog that went viral, so I had to rename myself. So yeah, themoonwoman.com. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I want to thank you for taking the time today to talk to myself and share all of this information with my viewers. And I really appreciate it. And hopefully, we'll talk again soon.
All right. Have a great day, and thank you. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for
Okay.
listening, everyone.
Very good.